Yeah, I think it's very essential that all of our preaching is climaxing and pointing us to what Christ has done for us in the gospel. That's how real change actually happens for us, is when we hear the gospel and believe it. That's where change is really made possible. And so all of our sermons really need to climax and point us to Christ. In 1 Corinthians chapter 15, Paul says that the gospel is of first importance. And he says that Jesus died according to the scriptures, that he was buried and was raised again according to the scriptures. Now, I used to think that when Paul said according to the scriptures, he said that you could go back and find proof texts of of Jesus' death and his resurrection in the Old Testament. But I've actually come to realize that that's not actually what Paul's doing. Paul's giving us this really condensed version of the gospel. And he's saying, according to the scriptures, according to the scriptures. It's kind of like one of those little freeze-dried miso packets. You know, if you've ever seen one of those little miso cakes, and you pour hot water on it, and this little kind of ugly-looking miso cake starts to break apart and just explode into different colors, and different things start coming out of it. There's eggplant in there, there's mushrooms, there's wakame, there's all these things hidden inside that little tablet. And it took pouring the hot water over that tablet to release all of that potential and that delicious soup. And in the same way, when we pour the hot water of the scriptures over that little gospel tablet that Paul gives us in 1 Corinthians 15, suddenly all these implications and applications that are hidden inside that little gospel tablet come to life. And so unless we are pouring the scriptures over that little gospel tablet, we're not going to be feeding our people the things that they need to live. And so that's why the gospel is central. Preaching Christ is so central to all of the preaching, the task of preaching. I think one of the keys for preaching to the heart and creating the context for heart change to happen is, first of all, as ministers of the gospel, we need to become like doctors. We need to be able to diagnose the heart and also know how to apply and treat the heart. And so I think that begins with how the gospel impacts our own hearts. We need to really have an intimate knowledge of the way our own hearts work, and not just knowing and confessing sin, but actually kind of getting deeper and knowing the reasons why we sin. And then also learning from others about how their hearts work differently than ours, because we might have the same sin problem, but the reasons behind that, the idols behind that might be different. And so we need to become like doctors who are able to diagnose the symptoms of the heart. And the reason for that, why that's so important, is we need to be able to apply the gospel with precision. So it's not enough simply to just dump the gospel on someone as if it was like a bucket full of water and expect that to bring healing to them and to the specific issues of their hearts. And so instead, we need to isolate the actual problems that people are dealing with and apply the gospel directly to those things. And that's where real change is going to happen, is as we apply the gospel with precision to the areas of need that people have. Almost every week I'm preaching on a passage where this is an area where I need to grow as well. And so I think there always needs to be kind of an underlying layer of humility in the way we preach and communicate what we're preaching. We're not necessarily experts. We know more than the people usually that we're talking to about the text. That doesn't mean that we're further along. And so we need to constantly be preaching the gospel to ourselves in the lead up to the actual preaching. So as we're preparing the sermon, we're allowing the text to really engage our hearts and transform us. And it's from that renewal in our own hearts that really overflows into the renewal in our people's hearts. And so having that teachability and having that humility as we preach, even in the act of preaching, letting it affect us and go through the sermon with the people that we're preaching to, because we're not finished, we're not perfect people, and really we don't want to communicate that to the people we're preaching to. We are all on this journey to deeper and deeper into grace together. And so always preach the gospel to yourself first. Yeah, one of the biggest challenges, especially preaching in Japan, is getting valuable feedback on your sermons. So people are often very hesitant to tell you what they really feel. So to really gauge, like, am I being effective? How am I doing? First of all, you pay close attention to what people do say. Sometimes that is helpful feedback. A number of times, oftentimes, I get the statement, "Oh, that was very deep, very deep." And the first few times I heard that, I took that as a compliment. But then, as time has gone on, I've come to kind of see, oh, I probably need to be a little bit more clear. I probably need to speak a little less, with more clarity. So listen closely to the feedback you do receive. But really, I think an essential way to grow as a preacher is to find some trusted people who are not afraid to tell you where you mess up or you need to improve, and have them speak into your life. Show them the tapes of you preaching, or find some way to build a community where you feel comfortable having people speak into your preaching. And city-to-city cohorts are a great way, the preaching cohorts are a great way to provide that kind of helpful feedback, because everybody in these cohorts desires for your success and to see you grow. And so really invaluable to have someone who is willing to help you grow, speak into your preaching. So find a trusted group of people who can help you understand what you're actually doing.